What's going on, everybody? This is going to be a spoiler talk for Thor, Love and Thunder. So, let's get started. Thor, Love and Thunder. It leans a lot on the silly side, but the problem arises when the almighty Thor gets sacrificed for some cheap humor. From the first Thor movie, we see Thor's character arc develop from being a self-absorbed individual to being worthy of wielding the powerful Mjolnir. However, in this film, it seems like his character has taken a step back. He is inconsiderate of others, like when he unnecessarily destroys the aliens' temple that they specifically told him that they value, or when he summons the Bifrost right in the middle of a building, causing significant damage of the property. It's moments like this that make Thor appear inconsiderate and out of character. Considering Thor's tragic backstory in the MCU, like losing his mother, his father, his brother, several times, his eye, his prestige weapon, and his home planet. They gotta wheel it in on the comedy a little bit and have a more serious take on Thor in future projects. Right off the bat, it felt like this movie had two different tones. Christian Bale, who looks like he just came out of Mad Max, is acting the hell out of the scene and really contemplating about his character's life, while opposite of him is some guy who looks like he was just pulled from a Lion King musical. I don't remember that guy's name, so I'm just gonna call him the Lion King God. But my point is, the tone didn't make sense. All I could see was that Bale was acting opposite of a mixture of King Julian and Alex the lion from Madagascar because of how goofy he was. I could feel the director's wacky personality on screen as he basically made all the gods' personalities silly and eccentric. Bottom line, it needed to tone down his silly humor and add more emotional scenes to be memorable. There is some humor that works, like the love triangle between the hammer, axe, and Thor, and the behavior of the axe acting like a jealous girlfriend every time Thor tries to call upon his old hammer. But the funniest running gag for me was the screaming goats. They had those goats screaming at several times throughout the film, and each time they screamed, it only got funnier. But let me get back to Christian Bale as Gorr the God Butcher. My only problem with this character was that we don't really see him butcher any gods, aside from the beginning, but that was sort of lucky. Like the sword just comes to him and he just stabs the Lion King god. We get these really cool shots of fallen gods that are killed by Gorr, but I think actually adding a scene of Gorr killing these gods would have added more to his narrative, and we would have felt the dread and danger of Gorr during his fights with Thor. But regardless, Christian Bale, as always, killed it in the role. And for me, the standout scene was when he appeared from the shadows where the kidnapped kids are being held captive. The way his figure forms from within the shadows, with his yellow eyes being the only thing that's lit. That's pretty awesome. And that's another thing they did well in this film. The color grading, especially on the shadow planet. Small details like how Mjolnir reflected small portions of light off Jane. Speaking of her, I liked how they introduced Jane back into the MCU because she felt forgotten after Thor 2. And to be honest, I didn't really miss her because I never brought into this whole Thor and Jane love story until now. Also, this movie gave Jane a happy ending, as I truly believe she's dead, because we actually see her in the post-credit scene in Valhalla. The other supporting characters like Korg weren't really necessary to the story, except the narration purposes, which I actually liked because he summed up Thor's MCU journey in the first 10 minutes. But I gotta say, my biggest problem with the movie was the scene in God's City. Especially the portrayal of Zeus. They put Zeus in a white girly skirt and had him prancing around. We're talking about Zeus, the most powerful of the gods. He deserves some respect on his name. If you're gonna go out and get a high caliber actor like Russell Crowe, then use his talents effectively. The whole scene was dragged out for too long considering what was at stake.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Which brings me to my next point. The movie had a lack of urgency. At no point did I ever feel real danger for the kids or for the god's safety. It's like Thor and his friends were just going on a fun little adventure, hopping around different planets and discussing their strategy, as if they had all the time in the world. Which they didn't, because a creepy looking man had just kidnapped all of Asgard's children. Speaking of children, how was Thor able to transfer his powers to them? This ability of Thor is never mentioned in the MCU. If he had this ability, why didn't he share his godlike powers with the Avengers in Infinity War when they were clearly losing against Thanos? I'm sure Avengers like Hawkeye and Black Widow would have been more useful with it. Now, technically speaking, this movie does not have a happy ending. I mean, Jane dies in Thor's arms. The villain is able to achieve all his goals, like he's able to obtain the axe from Thor, summon the Bifrost, and reaches infinity. This basically left Thor and the other gods at the mercy of Gorr's wish, and they're so lucky that he decides to bring his daughter back rather than kill all the gods. Now, I can understand how many people would have a problem with that, but I believe Gorr saw in Thor everything he thought the gods didn't have. The love, the kindness, the empathy he showed throughout the film for others is the reason why Gorr wished to bring his own daughter back and trusted Thor to take care of her, highlighting the theme of the movie, which is to pick love over hate. But I didn't love this movie, and I don't hate it either. I had an alright time once I adjusted to the wacky humor. If I was to rank the MCU Thor movies, first would be Thor Ragnarok. That was like a lightning in a bottle. Followed by the first Thor. Then this movie, Thor, Love and Thunder, and then my least favorite out of all of them, Thor, The Dark World. So therefore, I'm giving Thor, Love and Thunder a 3 out of 5 stars. If you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more movie and TV reviews. Until next time, peace.